So I'm Diana, and I'm an alcoholic.
Diana.
And it's Clarkdale. There's no S in that, by the way, as if it matters. Yeah. So, what I always like to start off with is if you're new, I hope you get to stay. Period. I hope you get to stay. Because there's a whole lot of people that don't get to stay. And by the grace of God, on July 15th, I'll have 34 years. Yeah. And my big message, not unique, is don't drink no matter what. Because I've been through a whole lot of no matter what. Just everything you could possibly go through, I've gone through. So I want to welcome the newcomers. Way to go on the chip, people. Thanks for taking into my time. I should be a comic. I can take you down. So anyway, so where I want to start on my story is grew up in an Irish home. I don't know how many Irish people are here. If you've ever, yeah, we make up a lot of these rooms. But I don't know if you've ever been to an Irish funeral. It's you get drunker than the guy in the box. That's pretty much what an Irish funeral is. And in the old country, they used to get, they used to take the body to the pub. I don't know, sometimes I guess they still do that, but it's pretty hardcore. So I grew up with a lot of examples why you wouldn't ever want to be an alcoholic. And I never wanted to be an alcoholic because I saw what happens when you're an alcoholic, you die. Or you roll cars, you go to prison, you do all those horrible things that you do when you drink, right? So I never wanted to do that. And in the third edition, which is where I'm stuck, I haven't progressed because I'm a rut person. I get in a rut and I furnish it, and I just stay right there. So in chapter 3, page 42, it talks about the alcoholic mind. That's what I have. I don't know about you, but I have an alcoholic mind. I think different. When I was a kid, sugar was my first, mainline Jell-O out of the box, and a lot of violence in my home. Tons and tons of violence. When I was 9 years old, my father tried to kill my mother with a knife in front of me. And so I had a mouth, and I was screaming and getting her out of the way so that she didn't get killed. And I never told anybody that happened. I went to school, and then I came home, and I thought to myself, I got to check out of this family, because this is not the right family. I'm not supposed to be in this family. This is the wrong family for me. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I thought I'll just have one last bowl of cereal, Frosted Flakes with sugar, okay? Because I have an alcoholic mind. And I watched the Bozo show. And Bozo made me laugh. Woo! So I thought if I had one last laugh in me, I wouldn't have to kill myself. And I never told anybody that for years and years and years and years. And later in life, I ended up writing for the Bozo show. Which was a pretty weird gig, I must say, because clowns are very creepy. Very, very strange. Clowns are very strange. So I never drank. I started using in high school. My father left, and we all started working at the racetrack, and I was serving cocktails when I was like 14. And cleaning homes and just doing a whole lot of work to survive. And I had 3 little brothers, and I was kind of the dictator in that house, telling them all not to get pregnant. I had a little speech with them all the time. You make sure that she takes a pill, man. And so anyway, I didn't start drinking until I went to college. I was 18, and I went to a kegger up in Fargo, because that was far away from Chicago. I didn't want to come back, so I picked a school where I didn't have, it was far away. And I remember this guy came up to me at this kegger, and he had a pitcher of beer, and he took a bite out of the glass, and then he said, "Hey, you want to go watch me beat up sheep?" And I went, "Hey, I'm from Chicago. I've never seen that. Let's do it, So that was my first drunk. And all I remember is going and watching these guys in pads, ram into ramps. So I was pretty impressed by that, And so in college, I became the Lodi House, and I won't talk a lot about drugs. I did a massive amount. I got an A in drugs, way A in drugs, A in drinking. I know how to do this. And I used to have a lot of people, hang out, and I had one friend who was making bongs in her ceramic class, and had another person who was growing it and all that stuff. So I had a roommate that I took to a party because I couldn't get her out of my room. She would never leave the room. I said, hey, we got to go to this party. So we went to the party, got her, big box of, big bag of weed and all that stuff. And I remember she came up to me, she had these pearls and she just threw them back and she goes, I just met a man named Moose. And I said, yeah, I got her loaded in the same day. So, anyway. So college was a lot of drinking, all of that. And I didn't have a lot of consequences because I wasn't using and drinking to that degree. So I didn't ever put two and two together. Oh, I'm not going to be like my father. I'm not going to have all these horrible things happen to me. I'm above that. And it's kind of a really long story, but I ended up going to live in Paris. I had a one-way ticket over there. I was going to work in French film. I wrote a letter to this guy and I said, you don't know me, I don't know you, but I want to come and work over there. So I did. I went over there and had let's just say a lot of shenanigans. A whole lot of shenanigans going on over there. I used to start my days with just really rot gut vinegar wine, the really icky stuff, but it was cheap. And still didn't put anything together. Still, again, no consequences. I'm still drinking. It's okay. I'm still drinking. And I had a brother who was in a cult. So my mother came over and said, you got to come over and get him out. So that's how I got back here. I was never coming back. I had a one-way ticket. So I came back here. I got my brother out of a cult. And then I was at a punk bar because I was a punk rocker. And by the way, what I do now when I see any punk rockers, and I go up to them and I say, I used to look just like you. Now who's scared? Okay, because this is a sneak preview of what you're going to look like. Okay, this is what happens to you 20 years later. All right. So yeah, I got my brother out of a cult, and then I was at a punk bar in Chicago, and I met this guy in Germany. He was German, and he didn't speak hardly any English. He would say, "I pick you up 7:30." I go, "Okay, whatever." And then I was off, drinking, just it was not pretty. And as a lot of you know who have been married to Al-Anons, that reason to drink, right? That reason to drink, yeah. That's what that was. It was a lot of should. Just you should. It just 10 years of you should. And at the time I was working for Bozo. Bozo was my boss. And I saved up all my Bozo dough. And I got in a big fight with him, and I just told him, okay, I'm leaving, And I took my Bozo dough and I went to LA. And never, and I left him in Chicago, and shit, man, he followed me. Oh, wow, I couldn't believe it. So he did. He followed me to LA, and So what happened there? I was working at a hospital during the day, and then I was doing comedy at night, talking about the hospital, about the day stuff that was happening. And you got a picture. Okay, so I was wearing sunglasses, not unlike today. Totally anonymous up here, very anonymous. No, so I was wearing sunglasses. I had punked out hair. I had like motorcycle jackets, and cowboy boots with spurs, never been on a horse, right? And the hospital used me as an example in their notebook of what not to wear at work. And I was smoking 3 packs a day, drinking my brains out. And people would say, nurse, nurse, and I'd say, do I look like a nurse to you? I'm not helping you. I have nothing for you. You know, go there. So what happened was I was getting progressively worse in my disease and drinking massive quantities. What I used to do is go to parties and I'd take a can of Coke filled with whiskey and then I'd top it off with Coca-Cola, because I wanted you to think I'm drinking Coca-Cola, but like, who am I? Like, what kind of weird game am I playing, right? I'm lying to myself. And I remember it was like 102 degrees in LA, and I was shaking. And somebody came up to me and said, "What's the matter with you?" And I said, "Oh, just a little cold, just a little freezing out here in 102." But I would always make excuses for all my behaviors. The one thing I didn't do, I never drove drunk, because my father drove drunk. And when you see the ramifications of that, roll cars and all that shit, you know that's pretty awful. So I never did that. I somehow got my keys to somebody else, so I'm really grateful that I didn't have to go down that path. But so what happened for me, and this is always my favorite part in anybody's pitch, is the moment of clarity and what happened for you. Because everybody's story is different, and unless you're making it up, I don't know, usually it rings true. I haven't met anybody else in my story, but maybe there's somebody out here that has it, I don't know. But what happened for me was, and it's interesting there's a gun show, because guns and me go hand in hand. It's part of my story. I had a German gun and a German husband, and I was going to get them together. And that gun was talking to me every day. All you got to do is shoot this guy. Everything's going to be fine. Just shoot him, get him out of the way. Everything's going to be fine. You know, that's all you got to do. Get him out of your life. It's going to be okay. And it was real. I mean, it was a real dialogue that was going on all the time. He didn't know it. He'd go to work, come home, you know, and my little brain is just like, oh, I gotta kill you. And yeah, that was a very, very strange. I had all my windows closed, and I was watching TV on really low, because I didn't want my neighbors to know I was watching my own TV, right? And if that makes sense to you, then you're an alcoholic, right? You have an alcoholic brain like me. I didn't want people to know even that I existed, really. And so what was happening is I couldn't get drunk. And I was drinking, no more ice, no more umbrellas, no more, just straight up whiskey, massive amounts, and I could not get drunk. And it scared me, because I thought, how am I going to get the mail? How am I going to do anything basic? How am I going to, go to work, do anything without being drunk? I have to be, you don't understand, I have to be drunk all the time. It has to happen. So after months and months and months of this gun talking to me, I've never had a problem with God. And I looked up and said, God, help me not to shoot somebody tonight. Like, not me, but somebody. Okay? So I kind of went into this really weird slow motion thing, and I went over to my phone, and I called a really good friend of mine who's also from Chicago, and he's known me a long time. He knows, he knows what's going on with me. He's a gay guy. And he goes, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know. And he goes, well, I'm going to come pick you up and take you to a meeting. And I don't know what meeting he's talking about. I know nothing about AA, never been to it, don't know anything about it, nor did I have any desire to go to AA. So he picks me up, and I'm in my punk rock outfit, and I go to my first AA meeting, which was a gay men's stag meeting. And these guys are, see, that's what I'm telling you, I don't think there's many people with this story. So they're all sitting in a circle, and they see me, and they go, yeah, she can stay, we like her outfit, you know? You know, they like the leather, there were a lot of leather guys there, they liked my leather, they said, yeah, she can stay. So I get there, and again, I'm not really hearing anything. They're talking like this, because all I'm thinking about is shooting my husband. That's all I'm thinking about. So after the meeting, because I don't really remember the meeting, we go out to a coffee shop, and his sponsor, I took him aside and I said, you know, I was going to shoot my husband tonight. And I'll never forget, he leaned over, he whispered, that's okay. And I went, I got to join this group. I don't know who these people are, but if I can talk about homicide, I'm in. I got to do this. I got to join these people. This is my people, right? So he was my first sponsor, and I got sober in West Hollywood, and my home group was Architects of Adversity. Anybody know that group? That's a rage group. That's a really big rage group. Weren't a lot of women in there, that's for sure. A lot of guys who just got out, you know, and a lot of screaming and yelling, the F word. Real violent rage people, but that's where I needed to be. I love that meeting because, first of all, it was old school AA. There were no rehabs. It was 89. You know, people were kicking in the corner. I saw women come in with gangrene. I mean, really rough stuff. So I don't know from rehab. I know nothing about rehab, nothing, absolutely. If you did rehab, you know, I don't care how you got here. I hope you get to stay. Sincerely, I hope you get to stay. So when I came in, there were hundreds and hundreds of people, and it was a great time to get sober because it was the in thing to do, you know. Lots of celebrities, lots of rock stars, and yeah, you know, meetings were just really pretty colorful. And my favorite meeting was Hollywood, Saturday morning, 7 a.m. because it was a 1-minute share. It was a 90-minute meeting, 1-minute share. And what was great about that is, are you going to mess up your 1 minute? Are you going to bitch during your 1 minute? Are you going to talk about stupid stuff for a 1 minute? No, generally. Of course, there's always that one person, right? They're going to waste their 1 minute. But at any rate, I love those meetings. They were so cool. There was a rock and roll meeting that I went to on Friday nights. A little bit of rain, it's okay. It's all right. Nobody panic. Nobody panic. On Friday nights, all these Al-Anon chicks, and I'm not dissing all the Al-Anons, I'm trying not to, but they would come in pastels, and we would say, oh man, you are swimming in the wrong gene pool here. This is not the place for you. Because that guy over there owes the IRS $150,000. And that guy over there, we know everything about these guys. We got sober with these guys. Whatever. And back then there were probably 10, 15 men to every one woman. I know it's different now. There's more women coming in, which is great. And so what I need to say is, when I was 3 years sober, I lost everything. And I was couch hopping all over the place. And I was homeless, and that was a difficult time, and I was trying to do a million jobs just to stay alive. And I was walking down a street, and my shoe had a hole in it, and I ended up squishing into a banana, which was so awful. And then I looked down, and I found this key that said, and I have to get it out because I got to read it to you, because I carry it all the time. So it says, stress, turn it over, and on the other side it says, to God. And it says ER, and at the time I was working in the ER. It was kind of trippy. So, and I've had burning bushes like that my whole sobriety. So that was 3 years sober. And shortly after that, I did have a child. I had a child, and many of you may or may not know Wolfgang. Anybody remember Wolfgang? He got sober up here. That's 5 years ago that he passed. And he was my whole life. And he's a killer guitar player. When we were in LA, somebody asked me if that was a gang name. I said, yeah, he's in the Wolf Gang, you know, yeah. Anyway, so I went from LA up to the Central Coast, and that was a whole different, way of people doing meetings. It was a little less dramatic, putting it mildly. It was basic AA, but basic AA is how I got sober. Big book, do the steps, go to meetings, get sponsees, do service, all of that. That's basically what I've done my whole sobriety. So when I was living on the Central Coast, well, it really is coming down, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, so sorry. Man.